Hello, I'm Park Howell, and welcome to the Business of Story. For the past 8 or so months, we have been working on an AI tool we call the Story Cycle System Intern that will cut weeks of discovery, research, and development of your brand story down to about an hour or two, believe it or not. We've beta tested the platform and it has been getting resounding positive reviews, so we're pretty pumped about that. When we first started developing the custom Chat GPT, it was all about saving you time in developing your core brand narrative. But after reading David Edelman's book, Personalized Customer Strategy in the Age of AI, I realized that our Story Cycle Intern, in addition to saving you loads of time and effort, is really about precisely personalizing your brand story to your customer. Today, you'll learn David's 5 promises of personalization and how to apply them in your brand storytelling, leveraging AI. Okay, so this show is all about personalization using AI for your storytelling. Do you want to feel the difference between a personalized story that is filled with emotion versus a non-personalized story driven by logic and reason? Well, here's a great example as to why personalization in your storytelling is so doggone important. And this moment between 2 tech titans actually happened decades before AI became a thing. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs were at some tech conference when the moderator asked this question.
Some people here, but I don't think most people know that there was actually some Microsoft software in that Apple II computer. Do you want to talk about what happened there, or how that occurred?
Yeah,
Bill Gates grabs the bull by the horns and starts the storytelling. Well, kind of. Listen to how he stumbles around trying to find the narrative thread using logic and reason.
Yeah, there'd been the Altair and a few other companies, actually about 24, that had done various machines. But the 77 group included the PET, TRS-80,
Commodore.
and Commodore PET, TRS-80, and the Apple II. The original Apple II Basic, the Integer Basic, we had nothing to do with. But then there was a floating point one where, and I mostly worked with Woz on that.
Let me tell this story.
How'd Gates make you feel? When you watch this video, and I've included it in the show notes, you can see Steve Jobs in the background experiencing the same confused frustration you are probably feeling right now. Then Jobs takes over the story and personalizes it for the audience.
Let me tell this story. So Woz, my partner, we started out with this guy named Steve Wozniak, brilliant guy. He writes this basic that is like the best basic on the planet. It does stuff that no other basic's ever done. You don't have to run it to find your error messages. It finds them when you type it in and stuff. It's perfect in every way, except for one thing, which is it's just fixed point, right? It's not floating point. And so we're getting a lot of input that people want this basic to be floating point. And like we're begging Woz, please make this floating point.
Who's we? How many people are in Apple?
Well, me. Yeah. We're begging Woz to make this floating point, and he just never does it. And he wrote it by hand on paper. I mean, he didn't have an assembler or anything to write it with. It was all just written on paper, and he'd type it in. He just never got around to making a floating point. Well, this is one of the mysteries of life. I don't know, but he never did. And so, Microsoft had this very popular, really good floating point basic that we ended up going to them and saying, help.
When you watch the clip I've included in the show notes, you will see how Jobs' story is broken down using 2 embedded ABTs, or the and, but, and therefore framework. And he uses the enormously important element of specificity, because the power of story rests in the specifics. So just go back and ask yourself, who was more compelling? Who was more inspiring, more motivating? Who did you actually want to listen to? Gates or Jobs? I thought this was a great example of how combining the robotic nature of AI with the human power of personalization is key to connecting with your audiences and moving them to action. Our guest today, David Edelman, says that any of us using customer relationship management platforms like Salesforce, HubSpot, or Zoho already have AI personalization capabilities at our fingertips. But few enterprises are using it to personalize their brand storytelling. In this case, they come off sounding more like Gates and not Jobs when trying to connect with their customers.
It's pretty surprising how many companies I've worked with where they've got the platforms, but the issue is the strategy, the focus on data. They haven't really focused on cleaning up their data, on bringing their data together. They haven't focused on the kinds of programs we're talking about. So all of that is something that becomes really important, even more so than just buying technology.
With over 1 million followers on LinkedIn and over 30 years of thought leadership and marketing, David is a sought-after executive advisor and board director, working with enterprise, PE-backed, and VC-backed companies. He was CMO of Aetna, now part of CVS Health, built McKinsey's digital marketing strategy practice, and has also had leadership roles at BCG and Digitas. Repeatedly recognized by Forbes as one of the most influential CMOs in the world and by Adweek as one of the top 20 marketing and technology executives, he has published 7 articles for Harvard Business Review and is now releasing his first book, Personalized: Customer Strategy in the Age of AI, to be published by Harvard Business Press in October. So please welcome to the Business of Story, David Edelman. Hi, David. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Park. Pleasure to be here.
Now, are you coming to us from Harvard, the hallowed grounds of Harvard?
Well, close. I'm in Cambridge, which is where I live. So I'm actually in my home office at the moment.
I gotcha. Well, my good friend, Dr. Randy Olson, who taught me all about the and, but, therefore, and who I've helped develop that whole framework with, is a Harvard lad himself. So it's great to have another one on the show with us today. I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to our chat.
Now, you've got this new book out, personalized, with the A and the I highlighted in the design of the cover. Personalizing your business storytelling communications by using what still seems like kind of an impersonal medium of AI. How does this all come together?
Sure. I don't think we should be thinking about AI as impersonal per se, as much as surfacing the important things that need to be known about you in order to deliver a breakthrough experience. Think about personalization as essentially telling a story to a customer that you get them, that you understand who they are, you understand what they need, you understand where they are in context, and all of that is being used to add value to them. Spotify has been doing this for a while. For example, Uber has been doing this. So there have been digitally native companies that have been doing this for a while. Now the capabilities are making it easier for more companies to offer more personalized experiences. So the AI, and we can get into this, does a number of different things to make that happen, not just generating the content.
Gotcha. And you actually have an equation you use called the personalization equation. Would you share that with us and kind of unpack it for us?
Yeah, sure. So if delivering a personalized experience is about understanding a customer and delivering to their needs, you need to have a fair amount of data and you need to learn what works. So it's kind of a cute way of, instead of E equals MC squared, we have personalization value equals N, which is the amount and breadth of data that you have, times V, which is your velocity squared, the velocity by which you can make things happen, whether it's responding to a trigger that somebody is interested in something and you should be acting on that quickly, whether it's being fast in testing and learning different things and being able to grab more data as we figure out for Park, is Park more interested in this versus that? Should we contact him this time of day versus that time of day? What is Park really interested in? You've got to test and learn. Nobody just knows. And the AI doesn't just know. You've got to test and learn, test and learn, test and learn. And so the speed by which you can get more tests out means you get more data back, which therefore feeds the N in that equation. And so together, it's about having that breadth of information and having the speed by which you can act on it and accumulate more.
So that's what the V2 is about, velocity squared. It's the AI helps you do the research, get the insights way faster than the old-fashioned way of researching and so forth, so that you can go to market quicker with the proper brand or business story that triggers that unique belief, need, want, whatever within your customer to get them to act.
Yeah, can I give you an example?
Absolutely. I love examples. Are you kidding me?
Here's a good example. Okay, so, and this was just before COVID, actually. So before we had generative AI on the scene. So in the town I was living in at that time, Lexington, Massachusetts, the town offered an incentive for people to put solar panels on their house. You get a credit for your property taxes. And that unleashed an avalanche of marketing from people who wanted to sell solar panels and all kinds of gimmicks, 40% off, blah, blah, blah. 40% off what? Is it the panels, the installation? The reality is what I want if I want solar panels is to use the sun to generate my electricity. And one actual physical piece of mail stood out. It said, we've done the calculations on your specific house. We believe you can save over 20% per year in your energy costs. Open this up to get a personalized URL to understand how Sungevity, which was the company, can help you make this happen. So I open up the envelope. I see a URL with my home address as part of the URL, enter it in, and I get a Google Earth image of my home from above with solar panels superimposed on my roof. And then along the right rail are a set of calculations based on how many solar panels they could fit on my roof, my longitude and latitude, east-west orientation, even tree cover, all of that saying how much it would generate. Then they pulled data from Zillow on the square footage of my home to make an estimate of how much energy on average I would generate over the course of a year. So they had the numerator and the denominator, and together it added up to 21.3% that I would save. And then click here to talk to somebody about it. I click, and I'm immediately put into a video conference with a young man who has all my data right there. Greets me, sees I'm Mr. Edelman, says right away, I'm delighted to tell you how Sungevity can save you. And it just goes on from there. And everything was completely personalized. Eventually, we did it, downloaded an app. Everything was managed through the app. But there's 2 points to this. One is that's a story of personalization. That's telling you a story that this company cares about what matters to you, which is saving on your energy and having a total package that's going to both economically and ecologically make sense. But I talked to the chief marketing officer of the company, and they didn't come up with that like day one. They had to test and learn. They had to try different ways of showing the information, different sources, different ways of illustrating things and conducting the conversation. It was a constant test and learn. And they started to realize there were also different kinds of people who had different attitudes. So they asked questions to get at that. So all of that was a great example of how P equals NV squared, because they got a lot of data from, in this case, public sources about me. And then they tested really rapidly to figure out the best way to make it happen.
And did they use AI throughout that whole process?
So this was before generative AI was really out there, but there was AI in a number of different ways. One was AI scanning Google Earth for homes that would be able to save over 20% was the hurdle. So they would digest an enormous amount of data that was coming off the Google Earth feed and use that to figure out who to bother going after in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
that
they use that intel to really understand what are the homes that are going to enjoy the greatest energy efficiency benefit from solar, and then reach directly out to those people and said, we've done all this pre-work, and we know that in this case, your example, that we can save you 23% from
That's
everything
right.
that we know.
That's right. Yeah.
In your book, in the lead up to it, I was reading through the press coverage of it. You were talking about companies that use or are investing in AI to basically save time and money, and you feel like they're missing the big thing here, the big deal here, and that is this personalization. So are people just not looking at AI yet with this idea of personalizing their storytelling to their customers?
I think what's mostly happening right now is a lot of tactical stuff, especially in marketing, where people are using AI to do things like generate 10 different versions of a particular pitch, and we'll test the 10 and see what works.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a lot of efficiencies they're driving towards, but also scalability, being able to do more with the same number of people, get more programs out, reach more people. And there's a lot of tactical work that's happening. But what that leads to is what happens when you get completely overloaded. So I recently moved from Lexington to Cambridge. And when I did, one of the big home improvement chains clearly got my name on a movers list and started bombarding me with all kinds of stuff every day, all kinds of stuff. And I had registered with them, but hadn't heard much from them. And now it was even multiple times a day, getting overwhelmed. And it was for all kinds of irrelevant things. Then they actually asked me, what was your priority? What was my priority? And I said, kitchen renovation. And they didn't do anything with it. I just kept getting things for like lawn fertilizer and for all kinds of things that were completely have nothing to do with kitchen renovation. And so I unsubscribed. And, I think what's happening in many cases is there is an inertia, there are programs that are going, and if you want to step back and actually use the data to drive something in a more personalized way, you got to take a step back. You've got to think about what does that mean in terms of the types of programs you want to run, the messages you want to send, how you want to manage data. It's got to go to the top because it's going to change how you're spending your budgets. But it takes a bigger strategic pivot. And that's what we believe. Personalization, if you make that pivot and that, okay, I'm interested in kitchen renovation. Well, work with me. What aspects of kitchen renovation? What's the size of my kitchen? Why don't I take a panoramic picture of my current kitchen and use that to figure out what I need? I mean, there's so many ways they could help me do that, and they're not going anywhere near that. So the capabilities are there to do everything I just laid out. And they probably have the capabilities. They're just not using it because strategically they haven't said, we want to use this to drive a different kind of value delivery that would enable growth.
Well, and we're so early in the game. I mean, AI it's an absolute bullet train speeding ahead with all the things that you can do with it. Some of it good, some of it not so good. It works a lot of the time, but not all the time. And so it's really difficult for companies to stay up to speed, to get up to speed remotely with what's happening AI. Yeah, operationally, it's probably a little bit easier, but this whole idea around personalization might take a little bit more. Tell us about your book. What will people get from this personalized customer strategy in the age of AI?
I think the important word is strategy, and stepping back and actually saying, how do we use customer information to change our relationship with our customers? So in the book, we have a framework of what we call the 5 promises. And these are implicit promises that if you're going to start using information about me, you've got to deliver on these promises to me. And the first and the most important is empowering me, enabling me to get something done that I couldn't do before, like dramatically simplify my kitchen renovation.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my budget, here's my current kitchen, here's the things that are my priorities. Give me 5 options and tell me what the cost would be, how you would actually get it done. Empower me. In order to do that, though, you have to know me. And that requires having permissioned information that either you get because of the transactions I'm doing with you, like on Spotify, for example, where I search for certain kinds of music, or questions you ask me, thumbs up, thumbs down, asking me, what am I interested in? So that's zero-party data when you're asking questions. So empower me, know me. Then you've got to reach me in a way that's not going to be intrusive, bombarding me. You should be hitting me in a way that's going to matter at the right time in the right channel. So another example here, just recently bought a espresso coffee maker, and it came with 100 pods. And so I have 100 pods. Within 2 days, I'm getting bombarded to buy more pods. How much coffee do they think I drink? So the right time is in 6 weeks, I order more coffee. They start to see the cycles by which I order. They see what I'm interested in terms of flavors. So think about coordinating the times you reach out. Then you've got to show me. You've got to make it so that I understand. One of the things when I was chief marketing officer at Aetna, people did not understand their health insurance. So we worked with a company called Sunday Sky to create personalized videos. Every member got a personalized video explaining their health plan to them. And that led to fewer calls into the call center, people higher net promoter scores. 70% of people watch the 3.5-minute video. That's a lot. And so in doing that, we showed them how we can use information about them to help them. And then the 5th is delight me, which gets back to the test and learn, test and learn. As I learn more about you, as I see what your preferences are, I can make it even better and richer, and I can delight you over time. So the book gives you a framework of the 5 promises: empower, know, reach, show, and delight. And that's a good way of organizing how you think about the capabilities you have to build and the kinds of experiences you need to deliver.
And to be really specific, it's the 5 promises of I can't say that word, of personalization. For some reason, I'm tongue-tied today on that. But yeah, so it comes down: empower me, know me, reach me, show me, delight me. And it's interesting, David, as I've been going through the book that you sent over, I've been working for the past 6-7 months on an AI using custom chat GPT. And you don't know this, but we've got this story cycle system process. It's a 10-step process that enables brands to really dial in their overall brand narrative. And I've been using it, for, almost 15 years now. And it's a very involved process. It takes time. It can take anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks to 2 months and beyond to do the proper discovery, research, to put your thoughts together on your story elements, and then to vet those, sift through them to really refine what your brand story is. And it's really a combination of both tactical, making it faster, easier, quicker, smarter, and to your point, personalization, which I'd never really thought about before, but it falls right in there because now we have perfected it to the point we're doing some beta testing on it. And people, marketers like yourself, are coming back and they're saying things like, this is one of the best uses of AI I've ever seen. It still has some quirks here and there, but what it does is it turns that 3-week, 2-month, 3-month process into about an hour and a half.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
And then it gives you all the information, and then you, as the human being, need to now take everything that artificial intelligence has given you, and you start tweaking it and adding your voice to it and your personalization. It even gets down to, you will put in your 3 top audiences. It will create personas for each one of those audiences, and then show you how to communicate to them in that persona's voice, in that personalized approach. It will ultimately get to the point of like, write me a Facebook ad. Now that you know everything about me, we've got my brand narrative in place, we know who the persona is, write me a Facebook ad using our 2 frameworks, the and, but, therefore framework and the 5 primal elements of a short story. So I was delighted. I hadn't really thought about personalization before your book came out, and reading through, the press coverage and so forth, and I got, that's exactly what we're doing. It is tactically going to reduce the time to get your brand story out there, reduce the energy and the cost to do it, but it's going to totally dial up your personalization about your brand and how you talk to your customer personas.
That's great. And then the one thing to think about from a company's perspective is then, how are you changing your processes to do that at scale and to test and learn? One of the things we talk about in the book, building on that, is what we call agile marketing. Mm-hmm. So it's creating cross-functional teams, putting together strategists, creative, analytics, operations, even compliance, if that's relevant in your business, in a team that's working together to get stuff out the door and test it and see what works for whom, test and learn, come up with new ideas. And based on what you're talking about, Park, being able to bring that to life and figure out how they need to adapt it for their situation and their particular populations, it's having the process to do it. If you're just in a traditional, and use a lot of analogies to software development, a waterfall process where it takes you 6 to 12 weeks to get something out the door, even if your stuff helps you get it done in less than a day, if you can't get the campaign all the way to bright out the door for 6 weeks, you haven't gained much. So you need to couple those kinds of capabilities with a sense of operating wise, how can you speed up the cycle time? And we talk about that in the book too.
It's funny you talk about agile marketing, because we call it agile communications and or agile storytelling, to your point. How can you get your message to land right the first time, every time, as fast as possible?
Yep.
The compelling clarity is the key in this world we live in today. Creativity, it's too hard to compete with all the crazy memes out there. Creativity in and of itself is not going to move the needle. You have to have compelling clarity, and I do believe that starts with personalized messaging. Even our and but therefore framework always starts with name your number one audience. Be as specific as possible of who they are, what do they want relative to your offering, and why is that important to them. But why don't they have it? Because of what problem? Therefore, how are you uniquely equipped to help them get it? So the personalization is built in, but I can see really where you're talking about with AI can create that speed to market, get that research, those insights in front of you as quickly as possible so that you can communicate in a personal way to that audience. But, David, I would imagine there's quite a tech stack that comes along with this. It's one thing to talk about how wonderful it is, but how do you actually activate it in a large enterprise?
Yeah, what we've actually found is most, especially mid-sized and up companies, actually have a lot of the capabilities they need. They don't use them though. A
Ah,
lot of the basic CRM platforms, content management platforms, web platforms, they all have a lot of capabilities for data management, for orchestrating contacts. And then if you want to add some of the newer AI capabilities, most of those AI tools are pretty open architecture because of the nature of AI can actually, the AI tools can write their own code to connect with the various systems you may have from which the AI would both pull data and then provide output into.
mhm.
And so we call it smart integration. And a lot of it is thinking about your architecture, not in terms of just simply, okay, I have Salesforce, I have Adobe, I'm going to use that for everything. They're adding a lot of great capabilities, but you can now plug in and add AI capabilities on top of it. But most of the big systems actually have the capabilities. It's pretty surprising how many companies I've worked with where they've got the platforms, but the issue is the strategy, the focus on data. They haven't really focused on cleaning up their data, on bringing their data together. They haven't focused on the kinds of programs we're talking about. So, all of that is something that becomes really important, even more so than just buying technology.
Mhm.
So, that's the real difference here is I think people are further along.
What are some of your favorite AI platforms or tools to use out there to personalize your storytelling?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So one of the best ones I've used, I mentioned earlier, it's called Sunday Sky, and it allows you to do personalized videos. They don't even have to be personalized per se, but they can be. And it has a whole set of templates and tools that make it super easy for even non-creative people who are just in a team to be able to craft appropriate videos. And we use that extensively when I was at Aetna. It's being used now in financial services firms, telecom firms. It's a great tool. Another one is called OfferFit. OfferFit allows you to do large scale multivariate testing. So, one of the key challenges with personalization is that you want to drive a lot of different tests, different dimensions of things, all at the same time. How do you set up the test cells? How do you coordinate getting all of these out? So, that's an AI capability that now exists to be able to do that kind of testing at scale. And then a third one is called Puller, Puller.ai. And that allows you to query any collection of databases to get information in order to answer how many customers do we have who have downloaded our app but called into the call center within 15 minutes of using the app. And therefore, they've been having problems. And we've got to get on top of that. And you can come up with all kinds of different things where you can go in and query multiple systems, bring that data together and use it. And so everything I just said is not really per se. I mean, Sunday Sky has Gen AI capabilities, but it's a multitude of AI capabilities that all allow you to do different aspects of the know me, reach me, show me, delight me that I talked about before.
And where did you and your co author come up with this idea around personalization, or what did you see? What trends did you see in the AI world that says there's a huge gap here? There's a major need for personalization, and people just aren't getting it. Therefore, we're going to pour our time and efforts into writing this book.
Well, in 1989, before the internet, I was a young consultant at the Boston Consulting Group who worked with three different clients in a row who were all just starting to figure out what do I do with customer information that I can capture. And I came up with what we called segment of one marketing. That was an article BCG published in 1989. And that launched the acceleration of my career. Started working with all kinds of different companies, mostly at first in services business, financial services, telecom, retailers, on how to make use of customer information for marketing, for customer service, for loyalty programs. And then, of course, the internet came and new capabilities became available. So I've been working with companies now for over 30 years as database management, digital delivery, content management. All of these capabilities gradually became available. And so as AI started working its way into it, first more in terms of being able to do analytics and predictive modeling before Gen AI, just started working with clients on pushing the capabilities there. And so I've already been working in this area. My co-author, Mark, runs the personalization practice at BCG. So he started that about 10 years ago. And so it was just natural since I had a lot of experience over time. He's doing a ton of it now. And we just saw the potential now with Gen AI to be able to do it at scale.
That's so cool. Well, we are still looking for some beta testers. If you would like to beta test our story cycle system AI intern, I'd be happy to send you a link, David. It covers everything you know about marketing, personalization, and of course, cutting weeks and months off of what it takes to actually put a brand narrative together.
Please, Mark. Yeah.
I just ask you to share your work with us so we can see what prompts are working and what aren't. But yeah, we are now taking it to the stage of building an app out of it so people could use it very easily. And it's great fun. Well, I really appreciate your insights and you being here. I understand you have a giveaway for our listeners.
Yes, well, we have the ability to get free copies of the book if you sign up through your site. The other thing is if you go to personalizedthebook.com, you can actually take what we call the personalization index test, where you can actually go and find out how your business ranks in terms of the 5 different promises, having the capabilities, being able to deliver on it, and you can get a sense of where you stand from a personalization standpoint.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So you can get that dialed in. There was one other thing you had sent me, 7 days free access to your personalized academy.
Oh, to the academy. Yes, of course. Sorry.
No, this is a great 1-2 punch giveaway.
Yes. So I do have a personalized academy that I have launched, a whole series of videos about just going into a lot more depth than we could in the book. It's a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor that couldn't fit in. Plus, it's moving. It's constantly advancing. And so I'm recording videos on a regular basis. But we also have group conversations. I bring in guests into the academy. And so, yes, there's normally a subscription fee. If you go to Personalized the Academy, it's actually Personalized Academy, you would be able to sign up. And right now, access is free.
Awesome. We'll have that link in the show notes too, folks, so you can find it there. But David, thank you so much. I know how busy you are, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be here on the Business of Story.
Absolutely, Park. This was a pleasure. Thank you.
And good luck with your new book.
Thanks a lot.
Well, that's another wrap for the Business of Story. And I want to thank you so much for listening and sharing this episode with anyone you know who would benefit from personalizing their brand story. And I mean, who wouldn't, right? Also, if you are interested in what we're doing with the Story Cycle System AI intern and you'd like to beta test it on your own project, shoot me a note over at park@businessofstory.com. It's just another tool that we are using to help you excel through the stories you tell. I'd like to thank Caden Howell for editing our show, Darius Holbert for composing our custom music, and Marissa Hill for marketing and community development. Please join me next Monday when we will have Hugo O'Doherty of movingtocanada.com here to share how they are using storytelling to not only capture the attention of immigrants from around the world moving to the Great White North, but connecting them with local authorities, the right city to live in, and of course the brands that are there to help serve them to make their move as easy as possible. So you're not going to want to miss it. And until then, remember that the most potent story you'll ever tell is the story you tell yourself. So make that one sensational. Thanks so much for listening.